Well, hello again there, friends and fans. Raptor here, and seemingly out of nowhere, the Manor Lords update has finally dropped. Welcome back to the channel. Good to see you all here. Today we're going to go over a few of the things for this beta for the recent update for Manor Lords, and also cover all the new maps and juicy new details. So welcome aboard. Good to see you all here. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and make sure you turn on that notification bell and hit that like button for more. The journey of this game has been certainly quite immense, going from one of the most wish-listed games on Steam to going to a game that hasn't had some updates in a very long time, but there's good reason for that, and we'll cover that in today's video. So let's go ahead and get started. First and foremost, if you want to go ahead and download the beta, there's some good information on Steam for version 0.8.035. So I'll link all of that down below in the description for you. So if you want to download it for yourself, you certainly can. Let's go ahead and start ourselves a new game just to take a look at a couple of the new maps. First of all, nothing really new here for the setup of your character and your coat of arms or anything like that. It seems to be all pretty much the same, although there are some subtle changes to the UI in the game. There's a lot of small things that have been tweaked, so we may miss some of that. And some of the small things that make a massive difference is this right here. Check it out. We've got ourselves the ability finally to be able to move to wherever we want on the map. We can start wherever we want. For the longest time, we had to actually restart a game over and over and over again to get the perfect start in a region that we liked. And now not only can we choose the region that we start in, but also a couple of starting locations too. This will be where your camp begins, and kind of nice to be able to start somewhere closer to a river or possibly an enemy spawn if that's what you're into. The game now also has two new game modes: a duel, where it says premise, your family and your rivals share a long, bitter history, and it seems the next chapter will be written in blood. Basically, this is a 1v1 mode that sets you up against one opponent, and the AI will basically spawn wherever, but you can also move the AI too by just clicking and dragging. Additionally, there's another one called Fractured Realm. 4 major noble families were granted rights to settle these lands with too many claims and too little space. Ambition brews, alliances will form, and betrayals will sting, and war seems inevitable. Now, what's interesting about this is something seems a little different, doesn't it? Now, wait a minute. The map is actually full of enemies? Yeah, the AI can actually finally build cities. I know, it took forever, but finally, the AI will literally and actually build a city that looks pretty damn realistic and similar to what you may see a player actually build too. So if you go with a 1v1 or a like a 1v4 or like a free-for-all, or however you set it up, yeah, the actual AI will be here and will try to conquer regions too and settle cities that way. Additionally, there can also still be the off-map attacks from bandits, and there's all your settings here too. So if you want to customize stuff, these are just two kind of presets. These are templates for scenarios, and the first 3 are still here: Rise to Prosperity, Restoring the Peace, and On the Edge. But a Duel and Fractured Realm are here now. So you actually have the option to pretty much customize everything from your end goal to the number of AI opponents, off-map adversary 2, which still is kind of like the traditional mode where you're being invaded by kind of a neighboring, I don't know, state or county or whatever that you can't see. So that's still here, as well as a bunch of other little tweaks for things like underground water. All that thing still remains. Now, another great thing is, check this out. We've got ourselves 4 new maps from what I could tell: Devil's Hill, Jagged Cliffs, Divided, and Lake Lem. So we have a map with a big old lake in the middle with some rivers that lead in and out of the lake. But then there's 3 maps that have a big hill in the middle, and then there's also some kind of elevated areas in the corners. Jagged Cliffs, which is pretty much elevation everywhere, which is one that I settled on, which I really am enjoying. Divided, which is kind of a little more of a mix of Jagged Cliffs, a little different. And you can see how they're all set up here with the almost the same amount of regions for every map. So we have like new regions with new names, and there's also some new resources too. Things have been changed up and yet brought back from the past, such as mushrooms, but we'll get to that. So what I thought would be great is we're going to go take a map tour now, and then I'm going to go over as many of the patch notes as I can where there are little tweaks that make massive differences. So let's go ahead and get started with our first look at Devil's Hill, and then we'll go to Jagged Cliffs, Divided, and the lake as well. Let's go. And it begins. There we are, fresh new map. Things are the same when it comes to an intro where you're tasked with whatever may pop up, and it'll tell you the victory conditions. You can just go ahead and say okay, and we can then play. So check it out. We have ourselves a brand new map. I know, I'm excited. So we're starting here in the corner, and we're right next to our enemy too. And right in the middle is Devil's Hill. In fact, if we take a look at the map here, this is facing north there. So let's go ahead and take a look at it this way. There it is, a perfect spot to build your manor, which now you can actually build castles in the game. You can upgrade your manor to now have, you know, castle walls, and that is gorgeous. So a beautiful, beautiful setting here. Again, rolling hills, mountains off in the background. Definitely feeling like we're in several places at once. It could be Switzerland, it could be Austria, who knows. And I bring those places up because there's a whole new system in the game which I want to cover in more detail as well. We'll continue our map tour in just a second, but right there, that is now replacing the old development tree. Origins is now locked, but once we reach level 1 of our city, we can actually choose kind of a background of where our settlers are from, somewhere in, like, for example, the Alps or various areas of Germany or whatnot, and then they'll specialize in making military equipment or mining or farming or what have you. There's also an environment tab, and this is amazing, and this is why it's very important to maybe look at the maps before you get started, because now there's bonuses to whether or not you leave the land alone or if you develop it. Currently, the region that we settled in is 70% woodlands, so if we click on that, you can see the bonuses to, like, for example, raising pigs, having different types of like gathering going on here, and then also gathering for tannin for leather making. So if we leave the forest alone a lot, the leather makers will be more effective because they can get bark, which they need in order to make leather. So that's quite interesting. So there's a bonus to the land no matter what you do with it. If we leave it as a meadow, then there's pollination, so great for our initial burgage plots, and then also apiary yields as well. So very cool stuff. Then there's also whether or not you develop it into farmland, rural, and then finally urban. So the more you tinker with things, the differences to your bonuses will be noticeable and will change over time. There's also a record screen and great, beautiful art in the background. It's gorgeous. They've done a lot of work, just like you saw in the development tree going in there. There's a lot more hand drawn art, it looks like, and really reminds me of the maps of Kingdom Come Deliverance, and you can even see it down here too. Check it out. Now all the different buildings have a different custom art style to it, so you can really tell what it is, from like the forger hut all the way to maybe the farmhouse or the mills and whatnot. So very cool, very, very cool. It matches what you used to see before, for example, with the militias and different stuff like that when you would hire mercenaries too. So it's kind of it looks a little different. I think they'll need to update that to make it to match, but it's really, really good. A great step in the right direction, really. All right, let's tour this map a little bit more then, shall we? So yeah, Devil's Hill, a beautiful flat top for a castle right there. Perfect for anybody who wants to play prosperity mode and build a castle right there in the middle. And it kind of reminds me a bit of a Trotsky Castle, which I've seen in real life. I've been there, and also, of course, you may have been there in Kingdom Come Deliverance too. All right, so there's a few changes now to animals. For example, we now have wild animals, not deer anymore, but wild animals. So it's implied that your hunter may be going out and trying to get things like rabbits and birds and small game like that. And when you hunt now, that is a big change too, which we'll cover in a little bit. You're not getting just like venison or game meat anymore. You're getting actually, wait, what do they call it? It's a little different. They call it small game, right? So there's now small game, mutton, shavon, I think that's how you say that, pork, beef, and chicken too. And then also there's eel in the game and carp for when it comes to fishing. So that's now kind of the way to hunt and fish and how it'll be divided. And that's important because when you get small game now, you can't just take small game and turn it into sausages. You'll literally need pork for that, as well as salt. So a couple of changes there to that. But again, we'll cover that in great details. Just something to be wary of when you're aware of when you're settling your city. So when we look at the map here, you can actually see that there's a painted art style too for each of the different resources. You can hover over these and see that there's fish and berries, clay and stone. And when we zoom in, there's a little bit more of a clean UI on that, showing that there's a little lake there, which are now more likely to spawn. The update does make it so that way in regions where there's water, so like a lake or multiple rivers and whatnot, there will be a higher chance for water like that. There's berries here, clay, and then of course the brigands and bandit camps there, which we've seen before, and they're sparring right there. Pretty cool. So yeah, and again, remember you can adjust that to different numbers. And then there's a little crown above these surface deposits of clay, rather iron and stone, which means that they're a much higher amount. So of course you can mine those with some of the new buildings like the stone quarry. So that's cool. All right, so yeah, beautiful looking map. Not very large, it looks like, but honestly, when you start building, you'll realize how much it's going to take to actually conquer these regions. So it feels like a little bit more like the first map, where it's a little more close together. But you can see a beautiful flat area here to build a town, and then kind of a large cliff and kind of a hill there, which you can cut down trees all day and put like a farm on there or something like that too, which there are benefits for elevation farming now with certain perks. Great spot to put your manor over there as well. So good stuff. So we got a couple of streams passing through on one side and probably the other, and looks like this is a little more dry over here, but yeah, just as you'd imagine. Devil's Hill right there, Big O Hill in the middle, and some nice land over to the side. So if you were to conquer this region here, this pretty much gives you the center, and this gives you the flank there, which again is perfect flat land, and very interesting to be able to connect a and you can see a road here too, a castle that way, kind of reminding me of what you'd see in Farthest Frontier. A perfect map in not Farthest Frontier, it would be though, but Foundation, but Farthest Frontier too. So great detail to all the rocks. I just wanted to point that out real quick. Looks gorgeous. I mean, it's really packed with detail. Little stones, large boulders, and the cliff face itself. Yeah, pretty damn impressive. This makes me wonder if they'll go back and rework some of the older maps, and I think the answer is probably yeah. There definitely will be. Oh, also as a side note, this beta and then eventually the full release of the current beta to like the full current early access version is so substantial that you will need to start over, and you will need to make new cities from scratch because of the development screen that I showed you. So just keep that in mind. All right, let's jump into the next map. Here we are, our second map, Jagged Cliffs. All right, we'll go ahead and remove this little message real quick, but beautiful art for sure. And here we are on the Jagged Cliffs map. Look at that. Woo! That is another gorgeous map. Absolutely beautiful. It almost feels painful to be able to build here and cut down all these trees, but then again, our towns blend in so well with all the natural materials of clay and stone and wood. Very nice. All right, let's face north. So what did we start with here? Oh, looks like we got wild animals, a rich deposit of that. Oh, we got salt again, which is not visible from the surface. And I think the same for clay too. It would be nice if there was some kind of visual cues to that sometimes too, or kind of clues to there being a clay soil. Maybe right there. Maybe that's an indication of it, but anyway. So we got the King's Road that passes through as usual. Here's our neighboring little region there, and look at that gorgeous little spot to put a church maybe, and yeah, another spot over there too, and great, more lakes, love it. Okay, so in this map it seems to be rolling jagged cliffs everywhere. In our current live stream series, I've actually settled here, and I built a church right smack dab in the middle of this beautiful scene. Look at that. I got the tree in the background, the church is right here, and it's gorgeous. In fact, let's go ahead and take a little look at what the AI might be doing too. Let's go ahead and peek at them, and a little bit later I'll be showing you a fully functioning AI city, and also a city that I built too. However, with this update being so massive, I haven't yet been able to build a castle and stuff like that, but that will be coming, so don't you worry. I'll be showing you a big O tour of everything that I've been working on, and I can't wait to show you. Oh wait, real quick, mushrooms are back. Those were gone for a while, but keep in mind now that your forager hut can forage mushrooms and berries, and berries are important too because they're both a food source and used for dyes for making clothing, and I think some things have changed there. I didn't see cloaks anymore, which I think used to have to be dyed, but clothes are still like a thing. Oh, there you go. You can actually see visually mushrooms right there, and another one over there by the tree, so you can actually see mushrooms in the forest. So a good idea not to go cutting down the forest next to your mushroom deposits. So this is land you're going to want to leave alone, and probably the same for game. And of course, remember that development bonus. You might not want to cut down a lot of trees if you're going to be making a lot of leather out of your wild animals. You might want to leave a larger percentage to increase the productivity of your leather makers, which again, that's now a new thing in the game, is being able to monitor and really more effectively influence their efficiency. Oh wow, look at this. All right, the AI is already gotten started. So you can see we can't click on any of these buildings here, but the AI is already building a second hitching post. They've already started their logging camp. It's already down. They're already starting to cut down trees, and they're building a well and a forager hut over here too. So the AI is getting busy instantaneously, and that is a beautiful little place to start building. Look at that. That is absolutely stunning. Just breathtaking stuff. That is so cool. The AI actually does build some pretty decent cities, and it looks like, honestly, I get confused sometimes and I look at it and I'm like, I don't remember building that, because it is in the style that I would build. So it's crazy how well the AI is so far. They've got a way to go, but it is a great first step forward into AI city building in Manor Lords. Another great little spot over here. In fact, if we look kind of more at the map as a whole, we can see that it really heavily tries to put players like into the middle of the map. Like all of these kind of get real close to encroaching towards the center, except for Wild Wand here. But if we look, there's like a nice perfect flat area right in the middle. And if this were you know, a 4v4, which it is, where the players though were all in kind of the corners to cut each other off, it's gonna be really interesting to be the player in the middle when everybody else is like kind of around you. And I think everybody's going to try to push towards the middle there and try to capture that middle section. It just strategically is in a good spot. And look at that beautiful winding stream. I love it. Everything about this game is pretty. There's another AI getting to work, building somewhat square roads there, but probably going to be like the main street for like tier 2 burgage plots. That's what I'd do. And looks like they're both building at kind of different paces. The other one already had a couple of other buildings up too. But yeah, oh, there you go. Level 1 burgage plot over there. So it looks like the AI is also building a little differently, both in its design and also in its like order of building too. So that's really cool stuff, and great to see them like, you know, building with the land. They will, for example, build a fishing, if this happened to be in the same territory, they would build a little fishing hut close to the fish, so that way they didn't have to walk as far. So there's actually logic too. They build logically, and they build kind of historically. They don't build like grid-based cities. You can see that, you know, there's some curves to the roads that they're building, and yet sometimes a little gridironness to it as well. I mean, I like to do a little of both. It just makes sense to build like a square, you know, around a church, and then build a square around that church. Anyway, that is gorgeous. Great map. Love Jagged Hills. This is one that I had started on, and I really like it. Very nice. All right, let's take a look at the next one. Again, but perfect if you want to build a castle up on the hills near a cliff. This is perfect, especially over there. If you're looking for just visually stunning thematic screenshots of your beautiful manors, which are, again, we can build castles now. It's a castle builder. I love it. Here we are again onto the map known as Divided. Let's go ahead and accept our quest here. And let's take a little peek around. So there's our starting city, and we're in the lower left corner this time. So you can see here all the regions. Very cool. Yellow, blue, and green, and red also indicate the player colors, or the AI too. They're playing, I guess. So yeah, this is Divided, and it absolutely meets the criteria for that. There's a large little hill in the middle here. It doesn't seem too crazy. I was expecting a little higher elevation, but it's a great map for building in the middle. It seems like a lot of these are kind of all having a spot in the middle, which is gorgeous to build, either right in the corner on the edge towards the middle, or in the middle. Like everything's trying to push towards the center, but there are a couple of spots in the corners that are nice too. Yeah, like up here. Oh wow, that's actually kind of crazy. Yeah, you could definitely build up here in the corner, but this is great. Imagine just building a city here. I'm so excited to see what the AI will do when it comes to building like up here. If this is a starting zone, I want to see how they try to build up there, although it's more likely they would try to build down here, and then you'd put your manor up here and maybe some other structures, maybe your other military structures up here too, things that might be useful for making your weaponry and or storage and stuff like that. You can do more than just your manor and keep things near that. But yeah, this is a great map too, because it shows what looks to be like a very large amount of flat land, and then right up into the jagged hills. And this is, remember, this is divided, so there does seem to be interesting areas to attack. And for the off-map attacks or the inner city attacks, and yet I have to see still how the attacks will work. It'll be very cool to see battles taking place on these choke points. Before, in the river map, it was really cool to see people defending bridges, and those were wonderful choke points to stop the enemy from getting to your territory or even close to your city at all. But here it'll be very cool to see a battle taking place like on a road where the enemy's coming up the road, so thus you take this high ground here and they'll have to fight you like up there. Great positions for ambushes, great positions for your towers and your manor to shoot down on anybody who comes this way, and then if they get through all the arrows, you send out your retinue in the area next to your manor. So very cool. I mean, it looks great. I mean, give us more of this. This game severely needs a map generator, although this is too handcraftedly beautiful, I think, to be possible. But it does happen in Farthest Frontier, and it does happen in Foundation, to where you could generate maps like this. So maybe one day, Greg will make it so we can get a map editor or a generator of some sort, and I think this would be a map that I would love to play on as well. Like, this is the problem with this update, is that all these maps look gorgeous, and so it's like, which one do you start on? I mean, they're all you want to build on them all at the same time, and you can only pick one. So very curious stuff. Now, again, I have not seen the ability yet, I haven't done it myself, to be able to conquer AI towns, and I haven't seen bandits, for example, going to AI towns either, and I haven't seen the AI attacking each other, and I'm not sure if that's implemented just yet to where they'll send armies from their city. Maybe they'll summon an off-map mercenary army or something like that. But again, this is a start, and finally we have AI towns, which I think was the next big step after more maps. I think I wanted to first see more places to build and play and battle for, and now we can finally actually battle for something other than just blank territory. We can now battle for enemy towns, and I have yet again to see what it'll be like when we go to an enemy town, for example. What happens when we capture that? I'll have to do that myself. But again, we'll go over those patch notes in just a minute. Let's check out the last map, and then I'll start telling you all the things that are major new and really just game-changing altogether. Ooh, look at that. They built a little... oh, I thought that was a saw pit. Well, actually, they'll build a saw pit right next to their logging camp, too. So the AI actually has a brain. It does. Time for another new map. All right, let's get our little welcome message out of the way, and let's go take a look at the big new lake. So just like in Austrive, we now have a map that has a big O lake in it and some beautiful little rivers that go in and out of it, and a gorgeous cliff there, perfect for building your town and maybe a church, and of course your manor. Unfortunately, I don't think we'll ever be able to build a bridge across there. That's something for Foundation, for example. But look at this. We got ourselves a big O lake and some fish and eel, too. There it is. That are up on the shoreline there. Now, I think I've seen the eel and the fish starting in the same spot each time that I've loaded this map, so I do feel personally that the lake itself should just be fishable. There should be like a a source of fish on every shoreline, because I think what you could imply is that the fisherman, if you build that building, it has a little boat on it, so you could just say that, hey, even if there's not fish here or here anywhere on the coast, there is some territory in the middle of the lake, and maybe it'd be fine for a fisherman to go wherever, maybe there's a treaty between the regions where it's like, yeah, go fish wherever, that kind of thing. Just stay off our shoreline. But regardless, it's a beautiful shore, perfect spots to be able to build a city right up against the lake and right up against the cliffs too. But then also we got some nice flat land far away from it with a winding little stream here and some nice bridges too. I haven't seen these before. I don't know if this is new or not. I know we had bridges before in Manor Lords for the large river map, but I don't know if we had these small little bridges across the streams. And I hope when we build a road through here, that it actually builds like a bridge. And it does. Oh my God, look at that. It does. Wow. Okay, that's new to me. I think that might be new in this update too. That's huge. Being able to build like a little bridge across the stream. Usually what would happen is there would just be kind of like a path built through the stream, and everyone would have to walk through the water essentially. But nice that we have the option now to build a bridge. But that is very expensive though. 20 planks for that? That's as much as the church. Hopefully there's an option to maybe choose not to build a bridge if you don't want to or something. Maybe it could just be a visual thing for now, because it looks like here, yeah, you shouldn't have to build a bridge there, but it looks like no matter where you build, the bridge is 20 planks. Like, it doesn't look like the cost is any smaller. 20 seems to be the minimum But as you can see, if I try to build further down this way, it makes it 40. Yeah, interesting. Okay, well, that's still, you know, something interesting to see. Very interesting. And also we have fish inside of this stream. So fish aren't just limited to the large rivers or the lakes. They're on the shoreline of the big lake, or eels are. It could also be fish. And then also there's a fish here. Now, I think the difference between the eel is that I just don't think that they could be smoked. There under fish, we have carp and we have smoked fish specifically, and then it says eel. But I feel like you should be able to do that, and it should just be, I mean, maybe you could lump that into smoked fish, but yeah, maybe there's a difference there. But a very nice looking map. This is kind of how we see it on the actual like map screen of the layout of the whole area. But again, a little bridge there, and a great territory here to be able to, well, maybe we could, but oh no, you can't build a bridge up there. Ah, darn. Yeah, you can see the cliffside there. But again, a great map, and I know a lot of you are wanting to build on a lake and have been wanting to do that for a very long time. So those of you who are trying to have like a Swiss map, again, under that development tab, there is the Alps. It does mention that. So, you know, that to me, always the Alps. I know it's not just Switzerland, but I always just think of Switzerland that way. And I think some of the choices that you make for the development tree do kind of hint at other areas around, you know, traditional medieval areas. But then on the other hand, they specifically list like Germanic or German regions and also towns too. So to me, Manor Lords is always just, you know, anywhere Europe, really, just anywhere Central and Western Europe. And although it definitely has its ties in Slavic land and lore, hence the name Slavic Magic, you know, the developer and Greg, but still pretty damn cool. Great map here. Very flat though, very, very, very flat. Amongst one of the flattest maps for sure in this update, but then it has a little bit of a hill here. But still, I think the first map, the Germanic map, is kind of like this without a lake in the middle. Okay, let's go see an actual functioning city. I'm going to talk more about the update, and we're gonna tell you everything that's new. It's big, it's awesome, it's exciting. Let's go. And here we are now in a more developed city, finally with charcoal. We don't have to develop the technology of charcoal burning anymore in the game by going down the development tree and unlocking that. Hey, sir, don't walk through there, okay? Yeah, so we have ourselves a charcoal kiln here, and you can build that in any city now, which is great, especially for those of you worried about fuel. But it is now February. We're starting our second year in this game, and I'm starting to build burgage plots everywhere. Now, I wanted to check out the development tree here real quick, and you can see here that we've chosen our origins of, Weiden Hinterlanders. Basically, this gives us more efficient farming at elevation, cheaper animal imports, mining speed increase, artisans efficiency. Malice is a kind of a debuff there. I think they should still refine this a little bit to show what's a buff and debuff, but and also I want to be able to show you the other different tiers. But unfortunately, I can't go back. My previous saves were like I don't know, not properly saved. Luckily, I have an autosave here, but if you click on this, when the gate opens, there'll be additional things here to choose, and it gives you 9 options of things that increase mining and manufacturing. A lot of it seems to be focused on mining and making things through metallurgy, so that's something to consider, like more effective mines, cheaper import prices for all things to do with like mining, like construction materials from stone, and more reliable mines, safer things like that. But it's interesting. So every time that your city upgrades, you'll be able to choose these paths here, and this could open up a many different doors. Right now we only have 9 options to start with, but that's your city's origins. So right now that's kind of like where our city is from, which I think kind of makes it feel like that's what the map is then when you choose that for you and your personal background. So again, remember, we're on the Jagged Hills or Jagged Cliffs map, and the AI over here is getting started too with their city in their first year. We started at the same time, and their city's looking pretty good. This is completely AI controlled. They're doing this, not me. That's amazing. They've got their little saw pit here next to the logging camp. They built their fisherman's hut next to the lake, and we can't fish in the winter anymore because it all has frozen over, and there's no perks to be able to fish during the winter. There used to be. You could fish year-round in previous versions, but not anymore. I want to go back to my city there and show you the church too, right up on the edge of the cliff, which looks very pretty, and I'm very proud of it. Check that out. Yeah, very nice. We got our little marketplace here too, and the snow is starting to melt. Beautiful. Very good stuff. So yeah, this is probably the most important thing in the game now, the origins, and I think it's really a very, very good thing in the game now to be able to actually choose like a multitude of perks at once. And it'll be good to, I think we really need to be able to choose multiple, because it seems so restrictive. Like some of them just don't seem good at all. Like no matter which way I look at it, it's just like, yeah, I don't want that. A lot of those origins won't be useful until like later. And I guess that's okay for now. They can change those cards and move them wherever. But the hard work of getting all that done is like more done. This is why it's taking Greg so long for this update too, as he has said he had to hire a bunch of people and then train them on what his code and stuff was. When he was making this game, he knew where everything was. He was just making it for himself. He was the only one working on it, so he just knew in his mind where everything was. So now he basically has to untie a bunch of cords, cables, and everything else in order to show everybody where stuff is. So he had to get organized so that way a team could work on it. So he had to update the game while also making it more streamlined for everybody else to be able to learn how to change his game, right? And to work on the code and to be able to update things and come up with ideas and share those things. So it's taken a while to build a team, you know, recruit people, train them, and then change the game to be more effective for updates in the future. So that's kind of what took so long there, according to what he says in his statement on the recent update too. So very good stuff. Now I want to go ahead and jump into a little tour. We're going to go into a video of me walking around an old town in Manor Lords, of one that we built in a previous version, and I just wanted to yap about all these patch notes, which are very important because this is stuff that we haven't yet been able to see in our build. Like for example, the ability to build castles and be able to see into them too. Like you could build a castle and then like a tower, and then, you know, put your mouse over it and it'll give you like a little like x-ray view of what's inside too. So very much looking forward to continuously building in this game. Again, remember to subscribe and turn on that notification bell and hit that like button too right now, because we're going to be building all this next week and whatnot in all these different maps. I want to continuously restart, build in new places, and eventually build a castle as well. I'm very excited to do that. We've also got Farthest Frontier and Pax Romana, the new Anno game, coming out soon too. So if you're a big city builder fan, you are eating good. You got a new update for Manor Lords, a whole new 1.0 release of Farthest Frontier, and a whole new Anno game coming at the end or middle of November. Very good stuff. Okay, let's go ahead and check out all the patch notes and talk about all the things that are new. So as I mentioned, from here on forward, we're just going to see a video of the older version of Manor Lords, but I wanted to talk about all the new things of the new version. First of all, again, remember, down below in the description is how to access the beta. Greg has done a good job of giving you a step-by-step on how to do that, but please remember, if you're not interested in staying in the beta for long and you just want to check it out, to back up all your saved cities so that way you don't lose any of your progress. Just, as always, just take all the saves and put them into another folder somewhere else so you don't have any mishaps. But one of the things that Greg has started by saying is that there's been good progress on the AI controlled players in AI towns, and they can't challenge the player yet, but it's getting close, and its towns look relatively natural and organic, with a major goal to make them look even better in the long run. And then there's, of course, the new player progression system. It should feel thematic, and the choices should be less boring and obvious, so that's related to the development tree as well. And a lot of great depth overall. There's maintenance now in the game too, so there is a bigger need for tools in the game, and they're a little easier to acquire through trade, but they're more important than ever before. Before they were just needed to build some buildings, but now tools are for maintenance. And then there's also efficiency, yield, productivity, dynamic population growth rates, various approval effects, environmental affinities, and that's the thing I showed you about, like for example the meadows and the forest, and more things to come too. So it's going to be a much more detailed game where you'll have to look at a few different spots to really be able to see how you're impacting the environment and how that is impacting you. There are many other significant changes, though they feel a little work in progressy, like the ability to upgrade to a stone castle, place your soldiers on the walls, and peek inside the towers. We broke up the resources in a more granular way, so veggies became cabbage, carrots, and beetroots. That is something that I hadn't mentioned as well in our tour of the city that I built, that now when you build a burgage plot, it'll have to be converted to a burgage plot, then you'll need to buy for quite a high price the vegetables for that. So now there's carrots, beetroots and cabbages. And then it's kind of the same with the pigs and chickens too. Chickens will now provide meat every 4 cycles, so they'll provide eggs all the time, and then they could be slaughtered for meat in the future. But keep in mind, you'll have to, one, convert the burgage plot to a animal pen or chicken coop for like 2 planks, and then also you'll need to be able to pay for that too. So I think the prices are like 20 and 49, depending on what you're growing or what you're raising. So there's a great new system for the early game, and food is a little harder to get. That way you'll have to do a little bit more foraging and hunting for a little longer, but the options to hunt and fish are greater now, so that's great. And one more thing that Greg says that I thought was funny is that he says here very casually, "Oh, and there are new maps to play on that I think you'll find quite cool, like the one with the giant lake and others that have a lot of cool rocky cliff spots," is literally what he says. That's great. Love that. So yeah, going on to the major changes here, basically there's the new starting location selector, which we saw, moving your little shield around in order to choose where you start in the map. There's new maps, which again are Devil's Hill, Jagged Cliffs, Divided, and the large lake, which is now known as Lake Lem. New game modes, those are the two, one, the 1 versus 1 AI, and 2, the Fractured Realm, which is the 4 Lord free-for-all. And then jobs and buildings, there's new jobs such as the quarry, the stonemason, the lime kiln. So now you'll have to mine stone, and then you'll have to convert what they call like rubble or rough stone into dressed stone if you want to use it, or you'll have to refine it into mortar with the lime kiln. So you can of course mine and sell just the regular stone. You could dress it and then sell the stone, but if you want to build with it, you'll need both dressed stone, right, so they're more square, and then also the lime to be converted into mortar. So if you're going to build your castle, you're going to need a lot of that. There's also wall positioning, so there's a new system for positioning units on walls, so now you can actually fortify and maintain a position on a wall. Ladder climbing and hover fortifications, which is the being able to point your mouse over a gate or a tower and be able to see inside. And the gate control too added the ability to open and close each castle gate individually. So if you'd like to, you can control movement in and out of your manor or your gates. So very nice. All right, now there's a castle upgrade system, modular upgrades. Every castle module, including walls and gates, can be upgraded to level 2, and I can't wait to show you this. I can't wait to reach that. I want to make sure when I build a castle, I don't do it sloppily. I didn't want to rush through the game just to be able to build a castle. Although it's exciting, I want to be able to see a beautiful castle with a beautiful city in the background myself. Placement logic. Module placement is no longer restricted by distance to the nearest module. The planner now displays the total Bailey area, and the Bailey area is allowed for construction limited by your lord or lady's rank, which is still a work in progress. Long story short, the limit of how big your castle can be is limited by how maybe late that you build. So your lord or lady will have to be a certain level before you can have a huge area. So you might not want to build your walls until a little later on. So where you build your manor is a little bit more important for defensibility, and then you throw a wall around that later. So nature could be your walls, basically. There's also the wall platforms that can be attached to the castle walls, and the platforms is capped by the wall type. Now, the affinity system, we saw this. This is the one where it's meadow, woodland, farmland, urban, and rural. So that's been included, as well as building affinities. So, something along the lines of pig pens in a region with a lot of woodlands area will give them what they call pannage. But then again, oppositely, like meadows will be beneficial for apiaries with all the flowers. I don't know why they call them apiaries. I think there's actually gorillas in there that are making honey, I think. And then, of course, the maintenance system. So you can actually set maintenance too. You can increase or decrease the amount of maintenance a workplace gets. But then there's a risk of failure. So there is a chance that a mine can collapse and cave in, and that could kill people or hurt them. So you got to be wary of that. But there are some of those different origins that will give you a way to resist that. And then also rate turning. You could dial your maintenance rates, which affects labor speed. So keep that in mind too. And then there's big changes to yield. So defining yield is basically how much a workplace produces, and then the influencers can be affected by labor speed, productivity, and efficiency. And then breaking that down further, productivity is a measure of the logistics, transport, and labor time. So in other words, how closely you have your storage buildings set up next to another building, or a building that will use the stuff that they're making. So if you build your bloomery next to your blacksmith and kind of have all that stuff in an area, they'll work a lot more efficiently because all the things that they need are right next door. So very good stuff. Then there's more explanations on efficiency, which are basically your gardens producing more, because you have things set up optimally with all the things that are going on, like with the new meadow systems and whatnot. There's an approval system rework, which I like. There's a memory weight shift, which basically means that if the people have been mad about something like a lack of food or homes for a while, they'll now more favor current events versus past events. So if people have been homeless for a while, but you just built a church, they won't be as upset about the not having a house for a while, even though they're now home. They have homes, but then you built the church. So the church is now the new most important thing to them. So they're more looking forward to what's happening now than in the past, but the past will still affect them. Vegetable types, going back to what I mentioned before, cabbage, carrots, and beetroots. You can now choose your preferred vegetable type in the garden, and that does seem to not necessarily affect the different types of varieties of foods. If you click on one of the homes, it will still tell you 4 things that they need, which is like water, like marketplace fuel access, protein, and then like a vegetable, which also includes mushrooms. So if you're giving your people fish and mushrooms, that will count as a vegetable and a protein until you're growing things like cabbage. Or there's a new crop type added, which is quinces, I believe. It's a new type of thing from the orchard. So now you can have like apples and pears and quinces too, and they all have different grow times. So I don't think we had pears before, and I don't think we had quinces, and they all have different yields and also grow times. So obviously the longer they take, the more beneficial they will be for their yield, because you got to wait a lot longer. Deer were replaced by small game since it's more plausible in historical terms. I mentioned that before. And meat differization. So basically the chickens are only gathered through the coop, and mutton and pork, you have to grow those things through your farms, and larger farms too, burgage plots, and small game is only gathered by hunting. And then sausages are now made from pork and salt. That's it. That's all you can make sausages out of. And then orchard types, so pears and quinces are added as orchard resource types. I think that's how you say that. I don't even know what that is. I don't know if I've heard of that before, or if that's under a different type of fruit IRL. But yeah, mushrooms have been added. It's experimental, but it seems to be working just fine. I don't see a problem with them, and they should definitely keep them in there. And then, of course, the perks, which is huge. The developmental perks, the perk design overall, which can be tweaked, and then their rollout status. Since it's still in progress, only the first batch of perks is available. So keep in mind, too, at this point, this is a very important thing. This is very early in the beta, and so this beta could be going on for 2 weeks, 2 months, or maybe like the whole rest of the year. And so it could be a very long time until 1, we see new features added to it, and 2, there could be a massive amount of jump between now and like the next version. So when this is now a public version for everyone, what could likely happen is that there could be a ton of new stuff added that's not even tested in the beta. And so when this beta version becomes like the mainstream version of Manor Lords, there could be even more things added, so it'll be like playing a whole new beta again. But it does seem like they would take their time and actually like plan all of that out in advance, so a good thing to consider there. But then there's some more changes to balancing, and there's like a homelessness grace period, so people won't be very mad about that. They'll take 30 days and then they start getting mad about that. There's regrowth tweak on like resource regrowth, so berries, trees, other things like that will increase. And then there's also changes to trading, so livestock trade balancing and post values. So now the prices of things have changed, and like how frequently they can change and or be traded there as well. A couple of things for the UI, like road snap fixes and new resource node icons too, but there are a lot of smaller things like that as well. So I think the UI itself and minor changes are something that's worth mentioning, but they're nothing major, but it does make a difference there. Like windmill efficiency, they now display their efficiency value on the inventory panel. I think you could see that before you place the windmill, but still, it's a good thing there. River fishing nodes have been added, so now you can fish along the smaller rivers and streams. Cold warning fix. When a burgage plot is refueled, the cold warning should now instantly disappear, so you don't have to worry about them heating up the home or anything anymore. They'll have the fuel that they need. And then disease data shift, which is not really often a thing in the game. People will get sick, of course, but whole families will now get sick together rather than an individual person. So there is a little bit more of a big effect to that, according to what I see here. Instead of one person missing work, it'll be a whole family, which is big. If you got somebody assigned to your granary and they're sick and it's just one family, that means your granary and your market stall, if you have it set up that way, will shut down too. The other small notes include like a camera snap fix and things like villagers that used to get stuck are no longer getting stuck as much, and some cosmetic changes too, tweaked fishing locations on certain maps, and then also door detection, improved door opening detection precision. There's like these small things that, again, cosmetics, bug fixes I'm not too crazy about. This is a whole new beta, so even though there's some quote-unquote bug fixes, I feel like it brought in 100 more that we have yet to find and report. But I think the more important things are those minor changes, like the apiary extension. Apiary is now a backyard extension, and wax is now produced every third cycle from an apiary. So the apiary is not like a little building you can build out in the field anymore, but I feel like you should have the option for both a like a communal apiary away from the town, and then also a burgage plot too. Makes sense because there is a communal oven still in the game, and then also the option to make a burgage plot into a bakery. There's also the options too to be able to make a burgage plot where people will stay there the whole time. It's called, I think, a small holding, and it's one of the origin options too. So basically the people will stay at that house the whole time and just do nothing but farm. So it could be good for early game, especially for making food. But with all these food options of like fish, small game, mushrooms, and berries, I think it's much easier than ever to be able to get food at the start. And I also feel like the time for foraging and hunting and fishing are extended. It'll be a lot longer until you're able to farm, because there's just so many more options to just gather food right away that you might not want to do farming until a little later, because you just simply don't need to. Yeah, that's the way it is. Well, that's all the time I have today for a brief overview of all the things that are new for Manor Lords, but we have a lot more to talk about and a lot of things that we didn't cover in today's video. But don't you worry, I'll be bringing my kind of final thoughts about the beta as soon as I have a little bit more time to try and do some of the things that are new, including building castles, building in some of the other maps, and watching the AI build bigger towns. So I'll report back in a little bit for more on Manor Lords here in video format. But again, come check me out live as we live stream here and build beautiful cities all across these new maps, and also go into some battles and answer all your questions about Manor Lords, Farthest Frontier, Foundation, and many other games. Thank you again for all your support. Thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts on Manor Lords down below in the comments section, what you want to see added, what you like so far, and what you think maybe could be a cool big major update in the future, something you hadn't thought about until now. I'd love to hear it, and I'd love to see you all back next time. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you soon for more Manor Lords. Goodbye, everybody. Have a great day.